So my name's Laura Keith, for those of you who don't know me. So I put these together every month, lunch and learns, all on different topics and different things, just to try and give insight or education or overviews to whoever wants to come along. So this time, Darren is hosting for us from our operational planning team. The reason we've chosen that for this month's Lunch and Learn is I think there's probably a lot of awareness of what the tactical team doing in our planning department. So the people that run like the day-to-day, like in the moment, but not so much what goes on behind the scenes. So Darren has very kindly agreed to host this one, just to give us a little bit of an overview of his role and just educate us all on a little bit more of what like a usual day is. So Darren, I will hand over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Everyone hear me? I've tried to put my camera on. I've no idea if it's working or not, so you'll have to let me know.
We can hear you.
Can hear you.
Yep, got your camera now.
And we can see you as well.
See, there, cool. Yes, so I'm Darren. I'm from the call ourselves RPs. We're from the resource planning team, which is part of the wider operational planning team. And like Laura was saying, you've probably all interacted with the tactical team because they do your day-to-day stuff. They're the people you probably speak to on a daily basis. Whereas my role is more about getting there ready for next week and the weeks beyond. We have quite a lot of different tasks to do during those time periods. There are 10 of us on our team, and we're currently recruiting to go up to an extra person, just with the workloads that we currently have and the increasing work that we've got now. We're on Darren. We're trying to use some of the new system to kind of do things a little bit better. Some things work a little bit differently. So we're just upping the numbers on our team to kind of improve the service we can offer to other people. Most of our day-to-day stuff is kind of quite fluid, really. We have tasks that we need to complete each week, but how and when we get to those tasks kind of depends on other workloads. So our BAU stuff, we have scheduling to do, which we have to release the next batch of schedules on a Friday, trying to keep people 6 weeks out with schedules. That can take quite a bit of time to do. So sometimes we'll do little bits during the week as we go along. So that might either all be doing one day, or we might do a couple of hours each day as we're working through, depending on when we've got bits of free time. We have things like our planning meetings, which is where those of you that have interacted with us before, certainly the CSM and STM population will have probably spoke to us in your weekly planning meetings. We've got those meetings that are fixed each week, and we've got our work that we need to complete to be able to allow us to deliver those meetings and provide the content that's needed. And then we've got lots of like little bits of projects that go on as well. So in and out of that, we've got a number of people working on various different things. So I just thought I'd share with you a few bits that we do. So for example, let me share my screen. Some of you will have seen these before, some of you won't. But each week we have a planning meeting with, so mine, for example, is with Laura and her managers, and we produce these planning packs every week for people. Now, the planning packs look like a lot of data, and the aim of these is to present to the CSMs an outlook for the week, what we expect to happen, and anything that we recommend that we could change or work on to improve things as we go forward. What people don't often see is they see this bit, and they see the stuff that tactical do on the day to change it. We've actually had to do a lot of work in the background to get to this point. So this has pulled through all of the shrinkage that we've already got in the systems. So just to show you what we're currently working through. So I'm currently working on Laura's plans for next week. So in Darren, I'm working through all of her ad hoc requests for work that were needed, the BAU bits of work that are needed, and I'm working through planning those in and around people's schedules. What do we need each day? What's best fit for each day? So looking at where we can fit web chat in, where we can fit e-forms in, where we can fit admin in. So a lot of it is the BAU stuff that we do. And like I say, it's working using packs, looking at like what we've had from previous weeks, what we expect to happen in coming weeks. So there's a lot of kind of balancing, and just to show you kind of the amount of stuff we put in. So this is just for the bespoke world. This block here is all the different pieces of BAU admin that I plan in, who can work those pieces of admin, and we try and keep it fair between those people to give people an even split of the work that they get to do. So they get a bit of admin time, a bit of phone time, a bit of web chat time, and so on. And that's all the stuff that we know about in advance and that we plan into the packs. And this is what pulls through on here to give us some of an outlook. We then also go through and look at kind of historic trends. So yes, we might know about a certain amount of absence. We might know about a certain amount of admin that we've already got planned in. We will then look at a lot of the historic data from the last few weeks, things that we know are upcoming. So we have a member of our team that's involved in training plans, which is not the training plans in terms of what gets delivered, but what's upcoming. So over the next few months, what training requirements are needed for various departments, what's needed to be booked in. And this is where we can start to look at where particular weeks might be better than others, and we can play around with those packs. So if I think that Laura's admin next week is going to go up to 20%, I can change it in here and it will reflect in the packs to give me a revised outlook. So this allows me to give my seniors, my CSMs, more of an accurate view of what we expect to happen as a combination of what we already know, and from my experience and time and talking that I do in the meetings, what we think might happen as well. So that's kind of the main thing that we do each week for the planning meetings. I say it's a lot of kind of historic background knowledge and looking at bits of data to pull these views together. I think people see this first view and think it's all out the system, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. Like I said, the updating of Darren, we have to spend time going through and putting that in. Whilst we're on this screen, the other part that we do is scheduling. So again, all these schedules that appear here for people, the system will generate them, but we've spent time in the background building various different patterns for people. Those patterns are a combination of people's flex working. So they might be a fixed set pattern, but then also patterns that we know give us the flexibility to service our customers. Each week, I will then go through, as I've produced a new week of shifts, to optimize those shifts. And the idea is to make sure we've got the right number of people on an early, the right number of people on a late, make sure we've got the right number of people on Saturdays. We also try and keep the Saturdays as fairly balanced as possible, so people aren't getting them too frequently or out of sync with everybody else that's within their own department. Same thing with Friday lates, try and keep those fair for people. And we also have a huge list, which is, again, at the top of this other sheet for me. These are all these other things that people ask for on an ongoing basis that we try and keep given to people. So if people want particular days off when it's their Saturdays, and we try and track those to make sure that everyone gets a fair shot at things, and things that we can accommodate that we can't necessarily build as part of a pattern, such as somebody wants a lunch at a particular time and a particular shift. And we work through these to kind of as part of our scheduling process. Scheduling is one of those tasks that can take a bit of time to do. Not only the generating the schedule, but then going back through and making sure everything that matches up. Because not only have we got to do the shifts themselves, we've then got to look at breaks and lunches. Now, we did get to a point with IEX where we were starting to get that to be able to do a lot of that for us. We are in a bit of a learning curve at the moment of Darren and learning how that works. And I guess Darren has been one of our big ongoing projects recently. So all of us went through quite extensive training on the Darren system just to learn how it works. But to be honest, until we got out and started using it with actual people in, this is when we really kind of got into it and started to see what we can actually do to improve things going forward, make our jobs easier, make some of the scheduling stuff fairer, better for our people. We've got a couple of different working groups set up. So we've got an ongoing variant working group, which I'm part of, which is when we see emails from you guys and questions that come in on a regular basis on similar topics, we're raising them as a group that's a combination of resource planner, tactical, the ops support guys, of, okay, what questions have we seen from you guys on a regular basis? Is it something that we need to re-educate you on? So is it something that people have just lost the message of how we do something? A recent one that came up was around the holiday allocations and what people can actually see in those allocations. That was a question that came from Laura and some of her managers. and myself and that working group worked through a way we could come up to improve that process, because actually that wasn't an education piece. That was okay, Verint doesn't do it in the most productive way, the way we've done it. So that was a learn that we took away, and we created a load of new planning pots, new holiday pots that we could put people in that gave better access for people to view and to make that system easier for you guys to use, rather than its original way, which was set up in a way that was an easy way for us to maintain going forwards. Our other big job that we do on a daily basis is our emails. So I will quickly show you my emails for the time being. We have our own separate mailbox that people across the business send their emails to. We categorize them between ourselves. In fact, that's my own personal mailbox, not the work one. We categorize them for our individual RPs because we tend to look after the same areas all the time. Like I say, emails are quite a consistent one that comes in, and these range from simple requests for things, issues people have found, requests from other areas for bookings and shrinkage to go in for certain places, things from our own managers that needs to go ahead across the week. So we do spend a lot of time working emails. They're probably our biggest thing that we do each day, and the thing we would like to change the most in terms of if we could get Verint to do some more stuff for us. So I guess a lot of you will have seen since we moved to Verint, I take it everyone on there uses Verint, do they? Or if we got people on here that don't use Verint as a system.
Yeah, I think most of us do.
Yeah. So the request management stuff. So you've seen how people request holidays, but you guys use it for one-to-ones and things like that. So we're looking at what we can do in Verint that makes some of those requests a little bit more, some of it automated, some of it just in an easier place for you to send those requests through to us, where we can just go in and approve them. We can edit them if we need to, or if we need to decline them, we can decline them. So, like I say, that's again falls into some of the Verint project stuff that we're working on. I'm just reading my list. I wrote a load of bullet points of things to cover off. If anyone's got any questions as well while I'm going through, feel free to jump in and ask. But they're the main kind of BAU stuff that we do. So scheduling, emails, planning meetings. We've then got a number of little projects that are going on. So like I said, recently the main one's been the Verint setup. So we spent the last few months kind of moving IEX across into Verint. We now spend time each week trying to improve that, working with MI on the data that comes out to you guys for your previous day reports and kind of your historic data and things like that. We also look after holidays, and this is the one big project that I'm involved with. Is we've got the holidays in the system that people have got where they can book their leave and the allocations that we allow each day. So myself and Nick is part of this group as well, are currently working out how best we can improve some of that. So there's probably times when you've looked at the allocations that are available for a particular day and thought, is that the right amount of holidays for my team size, my department size? Currently, we get given that data from our CAP planners who will say, based on budgets and so on, this is how much we can agree for the rest of the year, and it gets updated once a year. We will then look at that as team sizes change and people move, and we will make a call on whether we think that needs to be increased. At the moment, we have to go back through the CAP planners, but we are setting up a meeting later this week, actually, where we're going to see whether there's a better process for it, a newer way of doing that in Verint that means we can fluctuate those balances as we kind of need to, without allowing too many people to take time off at once, but making sure there's enough holidays there for people to take their holidays across the entire year. Tied into that is questions around when holiday cap is full. What process do we follow if there's another request that comes in, especially if it's a request for a full week off and maybe that week request is denied or put on a wait list simply because of one day? What scope have we got to be able to work with that? How could we make the system make some of those judgments for us and those kind of things? Alongside the holidays that people currently have. We're also responsible for an element of the buying and selling of holidays each year. So that's something that comes around at this time every year. We will do a lot of work around what people's holidays have got remaining, anything that they're going to be able to carry over. And then once the buying and selling window opens, we have to take all of that data that's processed through Workday and match it up with everybody that's in Verint. Part of that is an ongoing project I have with Ian Bradbury from the Workday team, and that quarterly I will go through and make sure everybody that's a manager with a team in Verint is marked as a manager with a team in Verint and Workday to try and keep all your data matched up. That's quite a lengthy job, which is why it's a once a quarter check, because we've got to export all the names from both systems and tie them up. It does then mean when we come to do the buying and selling of holidays, it's easier to match people's names together for what they've bought and what they've sold. Once we've matched them together, before we can put it into the system, we actually have to go through and check that people haven't bought or sold more than they're able to. So the 5 days limit for most people. So we have to manually go through and check each one of those, whether it's over or under what they're allowed to buy or sell, double check that, make any adjustments and send them off to the reward team who can make the changes to people's pay that are relevant for that. And then once that's all been done, we can then upload that back into Verint. I say upload at the moment, we're looking for the process for that. It seems to be a little bit more manual this time. So we do a lot around the holiday side of things. We've got a number of people that are part of the flex working panel. So if anybody on your team submits a flex working request, it will come into our mailbox first. We will then review that flex working request. And when I say review, what we're looking at is, does it fit in line with the business needs for that area? So a lot of the time, does it include a late? Does it include a Saturday? Is there elements of flexibility in there? They'll review those in that sense. That's then taken to a flex working panel call that's got a number of CSMs on there. And it is a discussion around what that request is, any particular reasons that need to be factored in around why that request has been made. And between them on that panel, they'll come up with an outcome. Sometimes it's a flat out, we can't accommodate it. Most of the time, it's we can probably do something with this. We just need to clarify a few points. So is there a late shift that we can do? Is there a Saturday shift that we can do? A lot of the requests are to try and keep some of the fairness in there as well. You know, we don't want people to end up feeling like I'm fully flexed and I'm kind of penalised for being fully flexed because I have to do the lates and the Saturdays and everybody else gets away with not doing them. So there's an element of fairness in there. And then, like I say, just trying to meet what the business needs are by looking at the different areas of the business, but also thinking that if that person then moved to a different area later on, would that cause any issues there? Any questions so far? I feel like I'm talking quite quickly, sorry.
Yeah, Darren, it's flowing well.
Good. So let me see what I've got. So covered the main role. Oh, sorry, Laura, go on.
There's some questions in the chat. One from Sarah that says, I'm keen to understand. It's all right, I can help you out. I'm keen to better understand challenges within your role, eager for focus areas for STMs to help support you and all the great work that you do.
Okay, yeah, so I suppose for us, things that help us are, especially when it comes to things like emails, information. So we look after, the 10 of us look after all of service and beyond. So sometimes when an email comes through, I think you forget, I do it myself. I'll send Laura an email, assuming she will know something about what I'm talking about. That having extra bits of information in an email will always help us to be able to process things. Working further out is always a massive help for us, because the further out we are, the more time we've got to plan and work and tweak with those things. And then I suppose the big one from an STM point of view is, don't be afraid to ask us if you don't know how something works. I think sometimes people get caught up in, oh, I should know this, I should know what this policy is, I should know how this process is. And we end up with back and forth on emails and things like that. If you're not sure on something, by all means, ask us, phone us. I think there's a lot of emails flying around. Sometimes a phone call's easier. We're always on Teams. We're always on Skype. There's always one of us in at some point from across our team. So again, just give us a shout, give us a call if there's anything that you're kind of struggling with, or if it's just a complicated query, give us a shout. They're probably the things you could do to help us the most. The more we've got an understanding of your blockers and issues, the more you kind of understand the things that we kind of come back and ask for, and the easier it'll flow.
Thanks, Darren.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
2 more quick ones. Can I have this number? Because I want to save it in my phone.
It's either the tactical team if you need to call directly, or what I would say is, have you got an RP for your area? Do you know who?
Yeah, Gemma. Lovely Gemma.
Gemma, what's Gemma? Gemma Hawkins, you mean?
Yeah, Hawkins. And I think Grace as well.
Grace, yeah. I was going to say, it's easier to find us on Teams and contact us via Teams if you ever need to speak to us. Tactical kind of the great ones to call if you've got something on the day. I suppose if you're talking about something next week, the week after, it would be Grace that you would speak to or something.
Oh, perfect.
We don't actually have like a hunt number because we don't have phone numbers.
That's all right. I suppose we have Teams for that.
Yeah. We use Teams, so it's difficult to say, oh yeah, there's a number that you can phone that'll come through to one of us.
Well, we don't need it really, but you see, if you were doing like say a long-term sick returner, for me, I tend to have a very detailed plan so that person knows what they're coming back to, and I've shared that a couple of times. But sometimes I'm told, yeah, great, thanks, that's really good, because it'll show a big breakdown on like breaks, offline activity, which you guys need. But then once or twice I've been told, oh no, we don't need that, submit it on a pro forma, which is grand, but you try and copy and paste that in.
Yeah, the reason we use the pro formas is partly to make sure we get all the information we need for some of those requests. You'd be surprised how many times people miss dates out or times out and things like that. So the pro forma is to help us with that, but also the pro forma logs it on a spreadsheet for us. So should an email go missing, we can normally find it on the spreadsheet, but also the spreadsheet gives us a chance to go back and go, okay, what are our big queries? What are we getting lots of? And it gives us something that our ops support team will look at and go, okay, can we target this process and make an improvement there because we're getting lots of emails about this? And also we can use it, say, for example, if you sent a lot of the same emails, we could be like, actually, maybe we just need to catch up with Sarah because she sent a few emails about the same thing that we've always had to go back and ask a question about. So Proformas, it's one of those, it has its benefits. I can understand why people don't always like using it because it's not the most easy thing to do.
I think they're great. They're lovely for, you know, the odd ad hoc things, but for the long-term ones, which are more detailed, do you say stick to the Proforma as well?
I say stick to the Proforma for most things if you can. If you really struggle to get it to work with the Proforma, or I'd say if it's a really unusual ad hoc question, that's probably where I'd reach out to like Grace or to one of the RPs anyway. If it's getting complicated that it doesn't fit in a Proforma, it might be that you need to have a separate conversation, or like say put it into a separate email.
Amazing. Thanks, Darren. And thank you for all your hard work. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Got one from Kirk, Darren, that says, if you had a magic wand and could implement a new way of working at Bupa that allows flexibility and meets business demand, what would you change?
Oh, that's the big question, isn't it? So I think from our side, we always struggle with shifts, and we don't want to give people lots of lates. We don't want to give people lots of Saturdays. You know, the shifts that people don't like. I think sometimes, for my own personal view of what I've seen from people, it's like if we could just get everyone to understand that if everybody did Saturdays and everybody did late shifts and they worked them on a flexible basis, they would actually do less Saturdays than they currently do. Sometimes it's the fixed elements or the people that don't want to do them because, I don't like the frequency of them. Almost then drives you flexible people into that point of but they feel they want to put a fixed working in because they don't like the frequency of things that they're getting. So I wish I could kind of sit down with everybody and show them kind of what scheduling is, how we kind of currently produce shifts, and what causes the fact that we need an increase in numbers on certain things. And actually, it's almost like that education piece that if everybody did a fair share of Saturday shifts, the actual amount of Saturdays they got would be less. It also, the system we've got now does allow us to do some different things with scheduling. So that kind of question, we might be in a position where we can start answering ourselves as we try and do things. And it's just a bit of experimentation. I think sometimes it's trying it with different teams. What can we do? And how could we use things better? Nick, I'm going to throw you in on this one if you're on and you're listening. Is there anything you can think of from your side for that question?
I think you hit the nail on the head around the flexibility, but I think a very people-focused way of scheduling. So maybe lowering the barrier to getting flexible working in. I have a flexible working pattern myself and find it incredibly helpful, but being able to offer that while retaining the availability for our customers, I think would be a massive benefit, because I know it can be a little bit hard to get a flex working pattern at the moment. So making sure that people are working patterns that work for their home life as well as for the business would be perfect for me. I'm not sure how feasible that is, but yeah, I think it'd be a big benefit.
That's the main one. It's the shifts. It's the shifts and how we get flexibility to hit the business needs without kind of impacting people negatively elsewhere.
We've got 1 minute, so I'm just going to pick one more, and then Darren, if you don't mind, when you've got a sec after, just go back or between you and Nick, reply to some in the chat.
Certainly will.
One question: how do you determine call volumes for each day? Do you base it on a number of calls this time last year, the year before, or is there another way?
So we have Rob Nivson and Kev Smart, who are our kind of cap planning team. So they will take the forecast for the year and work that into how much they expect that we're going to receive each week, and then Kev will take that and take it down into each month, and Kev will then take it down each week and into kind of daily allowances. That is based on a mixture of historic data, so going back this time last year, looking at what happened 6 months ago, and looking what's kind of currently happening as well. We then factor in things like, do we know when school holidays are, or anything else that's going on across the business that might drive call demand. So in some areas where letters going out can drive further information, is there a push somewhere on mental health and people getting help if they feel they need it? Is that going to drive certain calls up? So it's based on calls last year, based on calls last week, based on calls 6 months ago, and then it gets to a point where it will come but when we're putting our planning packs together, we'll run our packs, put the information in, and if I look at it for next week and go, I don't agree with that number, I think we're going to get more calls based on what I've seen recently, I will make a change to it and I'll increase the volume in there. Same with things like your AHT. That's all based on kind of historic data, all from across the years and all the other bits that could have influenced it. Simple things like, have you got some new starters in your team? Somebody new to your teams? If you've got a lot of people off sick, because if you've got high sickness percentage or high holidays, sometimes it's busier for the people that are in. So yeah, there's lots of little elements. So we try and look at historic all the way through to, sometimes I'll be looking at, for my planning meetings tomorrow, I'll be looking at what's happened Monday, Tuesday and going, okay, was it different to the plan? Why was it different? What caused it? Do I think that's going to happen next week? Do I need to make a change because there's something else that's going on? Does that answer the question? Was it Joanne that asked that one?
It does, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very surprised at exactly how much sort of like, how many elements go into that.
I think that's the thing with the planning role, is that you see the outcomes from it, but in the background, there's a lot of us doing lots of bits of things to get to a point where we can say, yeah, this is what we're confident in thinking is going to happen next week. And even then, in our meetings, you might tell us something that we go, yeah, we need to make a change to account for that happening.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. It's a great session. There's lots of engagement in it because there's questions on the chat. I will end the recording now. Thank you. And then, like I say, if you don't mind, at some point, just having a little look in the chat reply between that, and that'd be amazing. But thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Cool.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.